We are live.
Welcome to the True Sky Crew podcast, where we share our cosmic pearls of wisdom. Why True Sky Astrology? Because when we align with the true sky, we align with our true self. We are your hosts, Georgia, Janine, and Sachi. Thank you all for joining us live or on the replay. Tonight, we are going to discuss Leo. How's everyone doing?
Yay, Leo, feeling
Leo.
Leo-rific.
Because when we
Oh,
align with
yeah.
the sky, we align with our true self. We are
Okay, got that
feeling,
reverb.
yeah.
Sorry, that was me. It's the echo,
Lovely,
the cosmic
a lovely
echo.
night to dive into the fire realms on a Sagittarius new moon.
Yes. Happy new moon, everybody. And 111 day. Hope you're all
Big portal day.
winning.
Oh,
And
time out.
and
Before we
today,
go any further, you guys, I think we need to do something to turn on the live chat. Sorry.
oh,
It says comments are not supported on private videos. There must be something we need to click so everybody can jump on.
Okay, that makes sense. Let me see. When I clicked it, it logged me into a different YouTube, even though I
Do
logged in through
something
the right
to
YouTube. Let's
turn on
see.
the live chat. Sorry.
oh,
It says comments are not.
Did that do it?
No, I can see that people are watching, but the comments are still not. Let me jump off the live and see if it.
Okay, I see Melody. Hey, Melody.
Okay, now it's up. Yay.
Leo, Sun, Venus, Chiron. Okay, yeah, sorry. It somehow I went through the True Sky Crew, but it somehow logged me into something else. It's so weird. This shadow period of Mercury retrograde has been more Mercury retrograde than Mercury retrograde was.
Yeah. It's because it's like going over the galactic center and there's all these crazy echoes like calibrating. It is really it has been weird.
I feel that too. Because I noticed the thing that happens with me in Mercury retrograde is that I hurt my hands. I'll like cut it, burn it a little, do something, and it's all been happening in the post period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that. I can't believe you don't have Critica placements because that's like
I
just a knife.
I don't have Critica placements, but my husband has a Critica moon and my son has a Critica rising.
Uh,
So it's in my field.
gotcha.
Yeah. And it's a Mercury and Gemini thing too.
Mm,
The hands with Mercury.
Yeah, I can see that too. For me, it's mostly just cognitive things, but I have noticed, and it usually ties into synchronicity for me because somehow that's my jam. Things just
mhm.
show up, like I'll have a dream and it's like, oh, we're reworking that now because there's the synchro. Okay. And it's these funny references that I just am on the cusp of understanding, but I'm kind of like, well, I still don't get it. So I'm gonna need more information on that, please.
Hmm. It's cool when it comes through like that.
It can be very frustrating when you're like, I need the code to decipher the meanings to this, please. Like, I thought we worked this out in the retrograde. I guess we're calibrating through the shadow period too. Okay.
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, it can be funny. It can be frustrating. It can be both at the same time.
Yeah. All right. Do we have some announcements to make about the calendars?
Yes. So welcome to episode 12, everybody. Yes, episode 12. Uh, we are going to talk a little bit about the 2024 calendar and the daily planner. So thank you everyone who has already purchased theirs. We appreciate you. All of them should have arrived either in your email or in your mailbox. And if not, you can reach out to us and we can figure that out. But as far as I know, everyone has received their shipment. So we now are offering, of course, we have our full 12-month spiral bound wall calendar for 44.44. So this is a PDF, sorry, print that you will get and receive in the mail, and you can use it. It has all the info on the day-to-day. You can click on it to receive more information about it, and that currently has free shipping. So if you want it, now's the time to get it. We also have just January available for $7.77. So this is a 2-page PDF that you can have the overview with the notes page and then January's page. And we will do this for the months ahead as well. We will drop them every single month. So that way, if you're not really sure whether you want to get the whole thing, but you want to see, and test it out just for a month, you'll have that opportunity. Additionally, we also have the digital True Sky astrology calendar. So if you just want a digital copy of it, this is for immediate download, and you can print that for yourself or use it digitally on your phone or whatnot. And then we also have the daily planner. So this is the full year of 2024. So this is every single month is about 70 pages of PDF. So you have your full day outcast plus a notes page for that day. And then also some extra goodies for the new moon and full moons, and also some special info pages every single month. It's different every month. We made sure every month is something special for you guys. And everyone who has already purchased this has received January through March, and April through December will be coming sometime in March. We are still chucking away at this and working hard for you guys, double triple checking, quadruple checking every single page to make sure that all the data is correct. And yeah, really, it's just such an amazing tool to use. Just already, just not even a couple weeks, less than 2 weeks into January, it is just like, whoa. Definitely keeps you informed. That's where I go instead of watching the news, is look at the daily planner.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, if you want to test it out for a month, if you're not really sure that you want to do the full year, we do have January available, where it has the overview page on the front. It also has that special little extra page for the month, plus the full months and the new moon and the full moon stuff for you. So if you're interested in that, that is also an immediate download for 11/11. So there's a couple more options up for you guys. So that way, no matter what type of financial situation that you're in, or whether you're not sure you want to commit to a full year thing, you can at least test it out and see for yourself. So you can go to sachitheseer.com to purchase any of these. And yeah, for those of you who have already gotten it, let us know in the comments of, our YouTube, or in our on our Instagram, let us know how you like it. Let us know the use and value that you find in it. We would greatly appreciate that.
Yeah. We'll be doing the same thing with the daily planner, like the monthly thing. Each individual month will be available at some point. So you can buy them just month by month. Like if you have a birthday in a certain month and you just want the astrology for that month, you can do that. Or if there's, like she said, you want to just try it out for a trial period to see if you want to commit to the whole shebang. So we thought that was a good option to offer for everyone.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
And then just a reminder, we do have our Instagram group chat, which is poppin'. Thank you for everyone who has joined. I think there's already like 30 plus people last time I checked, which was quite a while ago. So it could be more at this point. But it's really become a really great space for people to talk about, this, that, and the other, all esoteric type of things, and especially the astrology, of course. So if you're interested in that, you can DM us at the True Sky Crew on Instagram and ask to be joined. That is the only way to join. Please do not, if you're already a member, please do not try to add people. They do have to go through the official channels. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a
And
fun
then we're going to
space.
talk all about Leo.
Yeah. If anybody has any questions about Leo, feel free to drop it in the live chat and we will answer your questions after we discuss a little bit. So let's get started.
Right.
Leo the lion.
So true number 4.
Yep, it's a nice contrast. You know, moving out of Cancer, moving through the Cancer Leo void, starting to transition into that big sun energy. And technically, it's the fourth true zodiac sign that the sun actually passes through, for reasons that we have discussed in our Cetus Aries episode.
Which makes sense considering the fixed nature of it. Like when I feel the number 4, it feels like a fixed number. Like it feels very, very stable.
Yes. Yeah, that gives it an interesting nuance versus the number 5, right? Like tropical astrology would say it's the 5th zodiac sign.
Yeah, which definitely feels like Virgo. Because Virgo's like, all right, what needs to change in this bitch? And then they do it.
Yeah.
Although it shifts us off of the association with the houses, but technically the houses aren't the signs. So that might also help people to start to tease out the difference between the houses and the signs.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that the 4 aligns with the fixed nature of Leo. I'm like, on to something there. So what do we want to say about fixed fire, you guys?
So I think I said something about this in the last episode. I feel like this fixed fire is like the campfire. It's like a hearth fire that draws people to it. It's different than that Aries fire that feels like a warring fire, or like a spark or a creativity kind of fire, or Sagittarian fire that's more like esoteric. This feels like a familial fire, and like this, like the spoke of the wheel kind of a fire. People gathering around and being entertained, being received by this fire.
Yeah, like the hearth that is constantly tended and always like a roaring fire, right?
Nice.
Like it's a nice stable flame. Yeah.
For me, a fixed fire is a fire that never goes out. So, fixed for me is something that is solid. So for me, it's like a solid fire. So because it never goes out, it like for internally, if our fixed fire goes out, that's when we perish in this lifetime. When someone loses their will to live, sort of thing. But the fixed fire continues on, especially because Leo rules blood lineages. It rules on through the energy that was passed down from generation to generation. So it's the drive to exist that never goes away.
Yeah, the key mantra with Leo is I will, right? Like
I will survive.
Yeah.
And that feels very much,
I will thrive.
That is the sun. That is the sun.
And thrive.
And so this is also why Leo tends to be a sign, like people who have strong Leo in their charts tend to have strong constitutions. And Leo is considered one of this, like Leo and Taurus are really considered the 2 signs that have the most longevity and vitality over time.
Yeah, that's a good word, vitality. A lot of vital force energy for sure. Coming from different elemental qualities. Yeah. I like that.
So then we know that the lion, it's very noble. It's the royalty, but it's also the father. So we see like the 2 luminaries between Cancer and Leo. This is the mother and the father. It's interesting because to me, Leo has the father quality, but it's also child. So I very much feel it father and son. And very much we experience through Leo a kind of arc that starts with dismantling the false ego, moving into the inner child, and then deepening into soul. So you can kind of see how there's a reparenting process that happens naturally in the process of Leo.
Yeah, very much through the masculine energy too, like the doing. You're doing the reparenting, making those choices for sure.
because
is
it's the heart and it's that it's the electromagnetic energy of the heart, but more so even the electric part of the heart because it's masculine. So that's where you get that doing energy.
And it's been coming up on my radar lately with like the king and queen archetype as kind of a slight distortion overlay where the word plays. I've been turning it over and over in my head, and I'm like, what's the higher vibe? Like there's the sovereign. I'm like, I get that one. And today it dropped in nobility, and I'm like, there it is, the noble, right? And that sort of, I feel like, turned into a power grab with the king and queen archetype ruling over people is a little bit of a distortion, because truly when we embody our sovereign soul self, there's no need for rulership. You're self-governing, right? So it's interesting that we operate, with the archetypes of king and queen, emperor and empress. You like to think of them as the compassionate rulers keeping the order, but as I feel like the collective integrates more of their own, does their inner work and collects all their soul fragments, everybody becomes a sovereign, right? We're sovereign unto ourselves, and everybody just starts to become collaborative. So I can see that as an evolution of this archetype where we're all just standing in our power, and it's about consciously evolving as humanity, basically. So it'll be interesting to see like how those archetypes evolve, how the collective understands those archetypes.
I relate with you about the king and queen, and I really like the reframe because it is very much about ruling yourself. And I feel like the Leo Aquarius axis really speaks also to how do we come to sitting at an equal table of leadership where we are at a table of sovereigns together. So I feel like this whole axis really speaks to that. And especially right now with Saturn in Aquarius, opposite Leo, we're going to explore these themes as well.
Yeah, the Aquarius side of the axis being royal star Fomalhaut is there, the empowered sovereign planetary guardian, and then Regulus and Leo being like, first you have to step into your understanding of your sovereign self, then you can play nice with others, right? Then you work with the collective, then you work in collective groups. When you've embodied your uniqueness and your own personal vision, and you sort of have vibrated towards people who are also doing that, where you can collaborate with them. So it's a fascinating axis too. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, especially because Aquarius rules over class consciousness. So how different classes come together as a consciousness in itself, which is based on the strength of Leo energy. So, those who have that, it's it's a bloodline distortion to think that just because I have this blood, I am meant to rule over others. And the thing is that everyone has the right to rule themselves. And that's another thing that Leo embodies, is the harmonized solar plexus of knowing, even if other people think this, that, or the other, I am in control of my own willpower. I have complete control over my own actions and how I live my life, even if someone from afar thinks that they should rule over me, sort of thing. So part of it is like giving other people grace to, be whoever they want to be. But if everyone is activated in that way to their own nobility, it's like there's no one can rule over anybody because everyone would be in the same class.
Yeah, there's no need for it.
Exactly. And it's not about necessarily like tearing down upward. It's about you yourself ascending your own solar plexus to the point of like, I am ruling over my own domain, and not giving any power to those who think that they are ruling over you.
Yeah, I really feel like people who have a lot of Leo in their chart, part of their purpose is to really be that embodied expression of their higher self. So they are sovereign unto them. So they just march to the beat of their own drum. And they're usually so charismatic and creative that they just find ways to figure stuff out. Like, well, I'm not going to play by those rules. I'm going to go over here and create my own thing, right? We're going to go do it this way and see where that shakes out. And I think it's an interesting evolution through time. Like, we can look retrospectively and go, okay, there were kings and queens and rulers and this stuff, and it's sort of evolved into the current state of government, which is, govern mente, ruling the mind. And it's like, that's where we're at with it. It's like, now it's just mind control. And I feel like people really have to just step into their true expression and just be like, why is this happening? Taxes, why am I taxed to be alive? Like, start asking some questions like, why do these things have any power over me? Why am I agreeing to this? How is this helping me? Like, and just reevaluating things and making some changes in ways where you step into your own power and make some different decisions.
And this is where some of that reparenting that happens in the sign comes in handy, because, I would say that as a society, we tend to be infantilized. Like everybody, most people are operating from a place of a child. So really, if we want to step into our sovereignty, into our true shine, into our true power, we have to grow up those places that still need our attention. So we can see how that, it's a necessary part of the evolution of Leo.
Absolutely. Yeah, an unevolved Leo or unevolved Leo energy, it is very childish, just like drama, and it's ridiculous. Unlike being childlike, keeping that childlike wonder and creativity and joy and fun and prioritizing those types of things are totally an evolved Leo quality.
Yeah.
On the other end, it's just like dealing with a whiny baby who can't
a bossy,
do
controlling
anything.
whiny baby.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's my
to
way,
have a
my
tantrum.
way.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the shadow
because
side
they're
of Leo
so
as well,
they're
is
so disempowered. They feel
because they
so
have no
disempowered. All they
proper
can do is
sense
have
of
a
self.
tantrum. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Because they have no sense of self. And usually unevolved Leo placements will have a stunted solar plexus that stays infantile. And so that's where those narcissistic traits start to develop from, because they're unwilling to self-reflect at all.
Yeah.
They just want things where they want them.
Yeah, and the other side of Leo is working that from a more passive aggressive place. Somebody that could be very shy, or somebody that just seeks validation constantly from others. Like, look at me, right?
Yeah.
So both of those are kind of
because they
unbalanced
can't
from
look at
different
themselves.
polarities. Right.
Yeah. It's like, I want the attention to keep me from looking within, sort of thing.
Yeah, when they're really the one with the power, but they're almost like vamping off others because they don't even recognize their own power.
Because Leos are very powerful.
For sure.
Leo
fire powerhouses.
They're born to shine. They're born to be an example.
Absolutely.
But it's also something you have to grow into.
To do it in a balanced way. Yeah.
To do it in a balanced way. And, of course, it depends on where it is in your chart and the other aspects going on in your chart as well.
Yeah, people have a lot of Leo places. I mean, Leo's ruled by the sun. They have their own gravitational pull. When a Leo walks in the room, unless their development has been extremely stunted and they're in that self-loathing or narcissistic tendencies, or even if they are in the narcissistic tendencies sometimes, you will know when a Leo enters that room. You will feel their light, or they will start siphoning your light.
We have a great question, or a great comment / question in the chat. Kaylee, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Kaylee says, I have 4 planets, Sun, Mercury, Mars, Venus, plus her MC, all in Leo, and would love to hear more about these areas. I'm like, wow. People, I'm sure, can feel you walking into a room. So funny. MC Leo, like, I have an MC Leo too, and I can speak from knowing that part in my chart is like, Leo at the MC is like, you are a light anchor. You being in your full capacity brings an immense amount of light onto the planet. And apparently it's a big focus for you if you have 4 planets in that area of your chart in Leo. So
For sure.
So
Especially
really,
Mars
you're
and
doing.
Venus being there.
I
Like that
know.
is just creativity. That is a soup of creativity. Like considering Leo is the fixed fire of creation, the masculine and feminine planets being there, it's like they just want to create all day. So whether that's having a big family or creating art or creating a whole new paradigm, like it's not only anchoring this light, but it's anchoring unique light of something or that no one else has ever done before. So there's so much like unique, special light and creativity that comes in here.
Yeah, Sun,
When
Mercury,
you have that
Mars,
much
Venus.
Leo in your chart, you are born to shine. So please let yourself shine.
Mm-hmm.
It's an absolute disservice and it feeds into your dysfunction to hide your light.
Yeah, finding your
One of
true soul expression is very important. And
Mhm,
I would say vibrating people into your life that supports your expression.
mhm.
That true inner child to be expressed. I don't know. I think it's fascinating. I wonder how close Mars and Venus are in your chart, because the closer Mars and Venus are usually says something about how integrated your masculine and feminine energy is. And that usually feels like hierogamic union type stuff for me.
Mhm.
But yeah, communicating the light, being the light, and probably some capacity of
Mhm.
like hierogamic union codes with your, to fully land your soul, boom, on the planet and bring some serious light codes through. Amazing placements.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
have this
And when
thought
it
about Venus and Mars in Leo that I've had before, and so I want to run it by you guys and see what you think. I feel like Venus in Leo is way more like the male lion, and Mars in Leo is way more like the female lion. When you think about like the lazy, languid, I mean, Sun in Leo, that's another thing. That's
for
who's
sure.
boss. But Venus in Leo is like the man lion who's lying around, doing this chilling out, while Mars in Leo, the ladies, the lionesses, are the hunt. They're working together as a team and they're doing their thing like like Martians, like good generals, good soldiers
Totally
would.
agree.
Yeah. I have Mars
Yeah,
in
it's like
Leo in my
the
first
the
house
gender
and I very
norms.
much feel like I feel like a lioness. I don't feel like a boy
Uh-huh.
lion at all. Yeah.
Yeah, the gender norms are like reversed. Well, I guess they're not norms anymore. Traditional gender norms are reversed for Leo energy, for sure.
Except for when it's time for the man, like the male lion,
Uh,
there's times when
the
he's like,
mate.
no, no. Yeah.
Yeah. We're
Exactly.
talking about like lions in the wild, not all Leo people, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
the social structure of the way that they structure their pride.
It's
Yeah.
interesting to see how that plays
I
out
totally agree with
because
that.
we see like Leo is such a masculine sign, yet we see how there's this shift, and it does show us, a lot about how we misidentify things about masculine and feminine energy.
Yeah, I don't
Hmm.
know how I feel about it reversing the gender. I feel like it does bring a lot of masculine to Venus, like a lot of doing power to bring through the tricks for Venus to step into her divine sovereign feminine energy, like the electric feminine. I feel like it does have a little bit of that, but I don't know about Mars. I don't feel like it reverses Mars. It's just about there is a true solar feminine archetype, and I feel like especially depending on how close your Mars and Venus are together, how much that is overlapping or how far apart it is. Like it's just trying to bring both those archetypes up to their sovereign full potential. Like, yes, you are a female and you can stand in your power, and yes, you are a man and you can also stand in your power. And
Or stand in your sensuality and your
yeah,
femininity and be a man.
your
That's
expression
what
as a
I mean
man,
to
yeah,
say
your
by
true
that.
expression as a man and your true expression as a feminine, like a sovereign feminine and a sovereign man. And a sovereign man, I feel like, still is a protector in a way. I don't feel like it waters down the masculine archetype as much as it
Oh, not whatsoever.
Not at all. Oh, not at all. It
masculinizes the feminine.
expands it. We're
Yes.
expanding it. We're not
You do it
diminishing
in a
it. Yeah.
compassionate, true soul expression kind of way. And I feel like that's the question, is like, what does a true sovereign empowered man look like? He's not the version of Mars that most people, I don't want to say most people, but a lot of astrology paints Mars as like the war planet, and that's not divine masculine.
That's not the only
right
part of it.
Well,
I see more of a balanced Mars.
I have with Mars.
Yeah.
Because Mars in the time when we're not in Kali Yuga, when we're not in a time of war, then who is Mars? So Mars does have a bigger spectrum.
I feel like looking at it from a sciencey perspective, it's like, it's the light codes, right? Whereas the feminine is like the space. It's the sound codes. So it feels like it's the creative inspiration. It's like the lightning bolts of like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Let's go do that. And you can get more in the creative, because that's really, when you're balanced, you are like this creative energy thing. Like you go do stuff and make stuff you're pulling things out of the field at very high dimensional levels, where you're like, time to land this on the planet, and then you go do your thing, right? So it does get less about being like this on guard protector and more like, here comes the idea, let's create some structure. It's more like a structurizing thing. It's like the feminine is like the void, and the masculine brings some structure to it with like the ideas and the concepts, how to mold the clay. Does that make sense?
Yes. And we're expanding our idea of what everything is, because every code holds its opposite within it, and especially in the third dimension. So yes, it does make sense.
Yeah, and I want to go back to the second part of Kaylee's question about like what these placements would be overcoming. So as we mentioned before, definitely a lot of inner child healing needs to be done. A lot of like relative things, so bloodline reconciliations, or even overcoming curses in the bloodline, generational curses, things like that. Also, of course, like, shining your light, what's causing you to dim it, what's telling you have to play small, because a lot of, when Leo energy shines their light, some evil eye, envious stuff can happen. And it does one of two things. It can make you shine brighter and inspire others to, shine their own light as well. Or it can make you feel like you have to hide. So that is definitely one of the biggest things to overcome. And also a matter of pride. So I always take Leo's pride as twofold. So one, there's of course the ego, right? And there's nothing wrong with being proud of yourself. You absolutely should be proud of who you are. And that's a big misconception about killing the ego. Ego deaths are fine at certain points in life if that's really when that like extreme transformation has to happen, but it has more, but you should be rebirthing. That's what they should call it, a death and rebirth of the ego. And that's only if you have a false sense of self and a false ego. And the ego is just the narrator of your life that makes sense of who you are and who others are. It narrates your internal dialogue and story. I am good because I do this. They are bad because they do this. That is just ego stories that ultimately create your reality, right? These are stories coming from the solar plexus about who you are, what you stand for, and how others in the world compare to that. So really reframing your ego stories so that they are more creative than destructive, so that they are building you in the way that you want to be and you want to be expressed during this lifetime, and creating the world that you want to create is so important. And part of that is not being too overly prideful to the point where you, again, it's that false hierarchy of thinking that you're better than someone else because of insert stupid reason XYZ, but being so proud of who you are that you love yourself enough to not play small with other people, and love yourself so much that you don't feel like you have to dominate over other people or try to make them smaller than you. The other half of the pride is literally the lion pride, who you surround yourself with. And just like Janine was saying, like one of the biggest things is making sure that you are involved with individuals that, allow you to shine your light in, a healthy way, and that, encourage you to do so and aren't, triggered into envy or whatever it may be. That's one of the biggest lessons of Leo, especially because a lot of these things can happen in family members. So a big distinguishing factor I always find with people with a lot of Leo placements is having to figure out who is truly their family, like soul family, and who is just a relative. Like who is just meant to be a DNA vessel to get you here, and who are you really supposed to stay connected with in this lifetime? Because people with a lot of Leo placements, they really have this deep, connection to relatives, to bloodlines, and there can be a lot of gunk that can come with that. So, it's really figuring out who you want your pride to be. And so that, who do you want to surround yourself with? If you were a lion, who would be part of your pride? Who can you eat with every day, sleep with every day, like in a cuddle puddle? Not necessarily sexual, but that too, but it's like, who do you want to eat, sleep, hunt, cuddle, play, nuzzle with? Like, who's worth, putting yourself out there? Obviously we're not really in that hunter mentality necessarily anymore, but if you did have to hunt and put your life on the line for someone, who's really worth it? And are they willing to do that for you? And so, a lot of it has to do with, like loyalty and who is really worthy of being in your space. Not that they are lesser, but it's more about the energetic resonance of pack animals and understanding yourself as a pack animal.
Yeah, family.
So yeah, that's definitely some
what is
big
it, the
stuff to
saying,
overcome.
friends are the family you choose? That's such a good saying for
Yeah.
Leo. Like, who do you
Yes.
surround yourself with by choice?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great too that you brought up ego. That's such a big topic with Leo too. And just to throw my 2 cents in on ego and ego death stuff, ego is really just your personality lens. So when I talk about ego, I like to use a reference like, think of it literally as like a giant contact lens, right? That you're focusing some energy from your higher self down into a human vessel. And false layers of ego is just like mud on that lens. It's not even really who you are. So that might be another way to look at ego death, is like you're actually just cleaning some of the mud off that lens to get a more true expression. So more of your light can come down and just walk around on earth, basically. Instead of always thinking about it as like, oh God, it's everybody's so obsessed with it, it's got to be a death. It's like, I've never experienced those moments as a death. It's more like an aha moment. And it's literally because I've seen the layers of stuff, like I've been aware enough to be like, oh, that's what that is. And it's always like oh, and it like, there's just this lightness, something, because I'm so clairsentient, I literally feel something like a cord disconnect, or, you get the weird tones, and that's usually like something releasing in your energy, or you'll feel something moving out of your energy, basically. Or I do, because I can feel it that way, but other people might experience, like if you're clairvoyant, you might see something leaving, or I don't know, whatever. But the point being is like, maybe there's a little bit of a reframe that can come in there too. Like, it's not bad to be you, right? There's nothing wrong with being who you are. It's who you came here to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, roar it loud and proud, be like, I am here, but what is not you? That's what's important to see, and be like, let's get the Windex out, clean the window a little bit so the light can shine in.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's a great way to look at Leo too, is like, it's like the magnifying glass, right? Like the sun coming in, and like you're just really turbocharging your body when you can clean that lens, because more light of who you really are can shine through.
Yeah, it could definitely be different for everyone. I love that analogy because it's like cleaning away the grime that's actually blocking you from being able to see your own light.
Yeah.
For me personally, I mean, obviously it's probably a Sun conjunct Pluto thing, and also I have Chiron and Leo. So a lot of my healing has been through getting rid of false identities. And
explain it a little bit more. Like maybe I just don't understand the concept of like
so
ego death
I
because
have
I've never
gone
really experienced it that
okay,
way.
so I've gone through life-changing experiences, multiple of them, where I am left sitting with myself of like I am not the person that I was yesterday. All of my belief systems are incorrect. Everything I thought to be true is wrong. And I'm a blank slate, tabula
Hmm.
rasa. And now I have to recreate who I am. Taking, of course, a couple pieces along the way, but it's like the person who I am is completely dead.
Hmm.
And I mean, honestly, there have been so many versions of myself I don't even recognize anymore.
It just leaves you asking, who am I?
Uh-huh. Yeah, and honestly,
Oh.
that has been one of my biggest mantras since I was like 8. I mean, I started my spiritual
Yeah.
journey very, very early. So like I've always been asking like who am I and what am I? I was
Yeah.
always very like what how I know I'm inside a human body. I'm not a human. I'm a human right now, but like what am I beyond that? And you know, really grappling with a lot of existential questions at a super, super young age. And of course, you know, growing up in, you know, religious extremes and things like that, of course, a lot of false identity was put on me. So, you know, then again, it gets to a point of like, no, this is all wrong. I don't believe it. This is not who I am. And explode
Yeah.
like Pluto, you know, death and rebirth, boom.
Struggling
Um,
with those false overlays.
yeah.
That's funny because I have experienced things like that, and I'm the same. Like since I was a teeny tiny kid, I'm like, who am I and why am I here? Like, what in the world is this place? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything
What is
is
this
messed up
terrarium or
here.
something?
Yeah.
What is going on? Like, how are there
And
no answers to anything? That just doesn't make sense. And so
yeah, the
then
difference
what?
I think for me is like every time one of those moments came in, it was always like, I knew it. And I was always like, yes, like when, say, with the religious, I didn't have a lot of religious programming, but I did choose at some point to go to church, and then having the realization that like these people are a bunch of damn hypocrites at 12 years old. And I'm like, peace
Yeah.
out, bitches. And I was like, yes, I'm free. It was always like, yes, I'm free. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's just a little bit of difference in the depth of the programming that you're overcoming. Maybe that's kind of what it
Yeah.
is. Like it was such a thing that was part of your identity that you're like, okay, well, who am I now?
Yeah.
You get to be whoever you want.
And that might be a difference between having Chiron in Leo and a midheaven in Leo
That
too.
you
Yeah.
nailed it.
Right.
That I think you're right. That's
Yeah.
very true. Where I'm always like, let the sun shine in.
Yeah.
You're like, just
Exactly.
clean the window a little. She's like, I literally died.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
such a massive difference in experience.
Yeah.
So
But again, it's
for me,
also, I know Pluto's part of that.
I have
That's
Saturn in
true.
Leo.
That's true.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is true. But I would, Chiron in Leo is definitely going to take you to that deeper extreme than midheaven.
Mm-hmm.
Midheaven is so fun. It's like the most fun part of Leo
That is.
in a way,
I mean, it's one of the most fun parts of the chart.
Yeah, it really is. So I have Saturn in Leo in the first house. And that's been a fun journey. Right now, Saturn is opposing my Saturn. So that it feels like when Saturn starts to really mature into the gifts of Saturn. I don't feel like I'm grappling with my Saturn in Leo the way I did when I was younger. It feels very, very different. And a lot of that, I would say started with my Saturn return, where for me, it wasn't so much of like an ego death, but I literally lost my face. And I felt like if I didn't have a spiritual understanding, I might have felt like I was going crazy, but I knew I wasn't. And it was like, I don't know how to explain it, but I felt like I lost my face. And things I had memorized, music I had memorized for years, I suddenly couldn't remember anymore. It was like there was a reset button that got pushed. But it didn't, I suppose that could feel like a death, but it didn't feel so much like a death, and it didn't feel like as light as a window washing or a contact lens cleaning. But it definitely felt like
there was some sand
a
in
cosmic
that.
redirection.
Like
It was like a cosmic
retrograde
redirection.
amnesia?
Yeah.
Whoa.
But I
Saturn will
rediscovered
restrict.
it landed, it re-landed again, but it was a different face that came back.
Interesting.
Slightly different,
Yeah, I've never
similar,
felt that.
but some shifts. Because that was for me in my first house.
Yeah, and the Saturn opposition.
And so right now with the
to that,
Saturn
yeah.
opposition, I'm starting to feel the gifts where Saturn delays but does not deny. I'm starting to feel the little trickle, like the little bubbles coming up from the deep
Oh yeah,
of
because you're towards the
all
end of
the
those
hard
midlife
work
transits.
I've
And
done.
it's like,
Yes, I am.
yeah, the crone is coming in, the wise aspects of Saturn. Who knows the things?
Because
She's
it's
like,
a
I've been
mastery
around the
class.
block a couple times.
Yeah, it's our mastery program, Saturn.
Yeah.
So it's the thing that maybe like for me when I was younger, I was like, I don't want, like I'd be pushed sometimes into leadership positions that I didn't necessarily fully want to take.
Mm-hmm.
And now
Oh,
I'm
that's
starting to feel
interesting.
a
Yeah.
grace in, oh, actually, when I don't accept the leadership positions I'm meant to take, I suffer a lot.
Yeah.
So
Learning
it's
those
been,
responsibilities are really important. Like there's
Mhm.
part of the soul journey. for
but I
that.
have had many leadership positions along the way because it's my mastery school.
But also, if it's in your natal first house, it's about you. It's you being in
Your
mastery
energetic
of your
body.
own energy and your own light. Not necessarily master or like leadership of others, but you being
No,
a true leader of
well,
yourself.
yeah. Well, it's shining, it's opposite my seventh house. So
Yeah,
it's,
the opposition would come through the
yeah,
seventh house. Yeah. So
yeah.
it is
So
balancing how
it's about
much,
myself,
yeah, being
absolutely.
in
But then
charge
it
of your own energy.
relates.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I
then
am
that's
in
how it
charge of my
relates.
light. Yeah.
As my son and I work on with our intense energy at home, I conduct my energy. And that's really what Saturn and Leo teaches you to do. I conduct my energy.
Yeah, that's a fascinating placement, understanding like what has happened in the solar system and the, why Saturn carries karma and like the reconciliation at a soul level you can do with Saturn in the first house and Leo is amazing. It's like it's all an internal process for you. That's cool.
So one of the cool things, because it's loosely conjunct Mars, and something that an astrologer I really liked said once about that Saturn-Mars conjunction in Leo is that it's kind of like an example of this: a basketball player who was doing great but then hurts their knee and is told they can never play again. But instead of never playing again, they work at it really hard and come back and are better than they ever were before.
Yeah.
So within that Saturn Mars journey that I feel like right now I've been doing the hard work to make the comeback.
And you associate that with Saturn and Leo?
Saturn and Mars
in the first house?
Leo.
Oh, gotcha.
In the first house, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Doing the work.
Doing the work.
Reweaving those codes, like literally healing the solar system by doing your own sovereignty work. That's amazing. Standing in your true power. Love it. We have a comment in the chats. Sashi, since this is sort of something that's personal to you, do you have any more perspectives about Chiron and Leo? Any more thoughts you'd like to share?
I honestly have plenty. If you guys want to maybe share your perspective and then I'll tell you how I've experienced it, maybe.
I'm honestly more interested to just hear like somebody who's lived it, what your experience is.
Oh boy, buckle your seatbelt.
Buckle up, Melody.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Melody. Wow, I mean, there has been so much. Obviously, as someone who has, who is a healer and who does what I do for my work here on Earth, it's been such an interesting journey. I mean, as a child, so right, a Leo has a lot to do with the inner child and the child. So when I was really young, I used to tell people in my first grade class that I was a witch. I didn't really have the nomenclature for healer or shaman or anything like that. And, I got in so much trouble. And then I went to a Catholic school and then was doing seances and got in trouble. But there was something so deep in me that knew what I was supposed to be doing here. And it's working in the esoteric realms. And so basically growing up, having that being like beaten out of me by society or societal pressure and telling me to do other things, only having to later release those layers of basically who other people want you to be. That's one of the biggest things of Chiron in Leo. Obviously, it's going to differ depending on what house it's in, but a lot of it is just releasing what other people, who they want you to be, who they think you should be, people who want you to dim their light because they're threatened or jealous. Definitely a lot of creative things. I mean, obviously, as I have already expressed, I've gone through so many different ego deaths, but also just changes of perspective of the continual becoming of who I truly am. It's just now it's a marvelous thing. I don't have to go through an ego death really anymore because I've already done that so many times. It's like kind of when you're, I mean, I've always been very committed to my spiritual journey. So once I committed myself at a very, very young age to figuring out what life is and who I am. It's like my first ego death, I got rid of like 10 layers of who I wasn't. And the next time it was 20, and the next time it was 30. And then it only had to be like, small, gradual little piece or layer, or kind of like the lens thing that Janine had mentioned. It's like sort of just keeping the lens clear and doing spiritual hygiene to make sure that that lens doesn't get dirtied. But in the beginning, it was extremely profound, huge, huge shifts. Creative expression is definitely one part of it. I have created so many different things that no one in the entire world has. And so, creating unique things and sharing that has been such a big part of who I am and, showing who I am through my creations. And so, I've really found that whether it's, I paint, I, sketch, I do 3D art, clay, 3D design, like literally anything I can make it. So it's just, poetry, anything, content, new ideas. Like I'm just consistently creating things, and that has also really been part of the healing process. And of course, once I became what I do now, using my creations to help others has also been very healing to me and healing to others, because that's just part of the Chiron journey. So yeah, it's really been amazing. It was definitely very hard. I would say probably until about 25, but it could be hard your whole life. Again, I'm in a unique perspective considering that I've devoted myself to like spiritual things. But also, of course, there is the issue of toxic family members. I've had to cut people completely out of my life, family and people who I thought were friends, people who wanted to be in my pride that were undeserving, unworthy, narcissistic, abusive, energy vampires, frenemies, fake bitches. Like, I had to get rid of all of them. So that's definitely another thing that I've noticed with Chiron and Leo. People who just sort of want to like pretend to be you or like want to be you, and if they can't be you, they just want to be around you and things like that. So yeah, I'm interested, Melody, if you've experienced some of the same things. Again, I mean, my life is pretty extreme because I have a Pluto Sun conjunction, but a lot of that I do hold to Leo and Chiron.
Oh yeah, you're here to
Or
change
Chiron
the
and Leo.
script on that for sure then. Sun conjunct Pluto, like let's excavate all that stuff. That's not you. I mean, that could be a very good reason why you experience the shifts the way you do, where it's like, those are layers of not me. Oh my gosh, well, who am I? Like, keep digging.
Yeah, exactly. I can detonate and explode things at any time if I want. But the thing is like once you get closer to the true essence of things, there's no reason to do it. It's kind of like when I first had the true sky awakening, I was just like, oh shit, time to completely change my content. I have to tell everyone about this right now. And that's that. And okay, as I'm learning about it, I'm going to condemn every single thing about the false paradigm that I thought was true.
Yeah.
But now I don't feel as like, I don't have to consistently be
you don't have to
attacking
burn
tropical
every
astrology or
bridge
anything
that no
like
longer
that.
resonates. You just walk across it. Somebody else is going to cross the bridge. It'll be a bridge for somebody else too. Like they'll have the aha moment. But you're like building the next step of the bridge, which I think is a funny reference because Chiron at a high octave is a bridge. Like he's the wound. and then he's the key, and then he literally is the bridge because of what he does in the solar system, right? He orbits around Saturn and Uranus. So he bridges the inner conscious awareness with the subconscious, because Uranus is the first subconscious planet. Saturn is the last conscious personality influencing planet. So that's fascinating correlation there. It's like literally you're bridging. Chiron's helping you make that bridge to your true solar self from Saturn to Uranus. And it's really about the reframing. That's the key with Uranus, is like the reframe. Seeing enough pieces where you're like, oh, this is actually the thing over here, but it's a live and let live. Okay, I've seen it. Okay, I can move on. Cool. Just expand right on through it. So I love that. And you're embodying that by becoming the bridge for other people, like to the next level of the understanding of it.
That's what I'm here to do.
That's right. Shine that light, bro. That was an awesome question. Like, I think Chiron in Leo is a very interesting placement for sure. Good stuff. You're welcome, Melody. I'm glad to hear that resonates. She says she would also love to ask your perspective about Leo Venus 8th house, because her Chiron is there as well. Leo and Venus in the 8th house. That's that's a power placement right there, sis. Yeah.
Well, definitely sexy.
Definitely sexy, but there's definitely some transmutation that wants to go on, like Venus.
Oh yeah.
Stepping into some serious power that it's like you don't even know how powerful it is until you get into that alchemical work. And it could come through like learning about it in a marriage, or if you're the alchemist doing it internally, is like it's going to be like a Scorpio type energy where you're doing the inner work and doing the alchemy that way, if you do it consciously. Otherwise, I feel like it could play out in marriage or divorce or dealing with other people's stuff. Sometimes Venus in Leo can also be like
any joint
attachments. Yeah, maybe not even from this lifetime. Depends, because that 8th house can be tricky like that. It can be like, where's the attachment coming from? A past life? Is there a vow that I need to release connected to a past life? Or something.
Like Venus and Leo in the 8th house
magic.
could be like an inheritance that
for sure,
that like from your father's side, that could actually have you sitting pretty at some point.
Yeah, it could be a bit.
And shadow
Venus
could be like,
Venus is so magnetic.
Person in order to get it.
Yeah, Venus is so magnetic. It could be something like that vibrates in. But did you say her Chiron is there as well? Again, it depends on how close Venus and Chiron are together. Because that could make a totally different read.
Yeah, Chiron is totally.
It might manifest the things that need to be. Yeah, it might manifest the things that need to be cleared. Like, yeah.
And then with it being in Sun, the Sun ruled Leo, it's gonna shine on all of the dark little corners, which we know is not always comfortable. So it could also be, we have to heal. It has to be revealed to heal. So it's going to be a lot of revelation with this placement.
A lot of layers. Yeah, peeling of layers.
A lot of layers.
For sure. I always associate 8th house and Scorpio too with like beyond this lifetime things. It takes some deep excavating in that kind of water. So definitely I would look into past life contracts or agreements. But with Venus there in Leo, it's definitely about standing in your full solar feminine potential, but it's going to take transmutation work to get there. You're going to have to do the deep dive stuff to go find those parts of yourself.
It totally makes sense that you resonate with the desk, considering it's 8th house. Because it's very platonic there. Or not, I don't want to say platonic because Venus really not really. But it's Pluto-like because it's in the 8th house. So it's really no wonder that you resonate with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an intense placement for sure. Doing some reclamation for the divine feminine there.
Lots of shadow
Big
work
time.
through Venus and Chiron.
Yeah, and I think with that quality of Venus, like because Venus is magnetic, you can ask a lot of questions and you can bring it to your doorstep. Not in a bad way, but in a way where you're like, it's time to deal with this. What's important to know about that? Bring it to me.
Venus has a lot of grace, so then she'll be able to deal with it in grace. And also expressing yourself artistically through this process can be really cathartic and helpful in moving you through the death and rebirth process.
Yeah, and if it has come on autopilot, like a lot of times our Venus stuff is on autopilot until you understand the immense magnetic power of the feminine energy, and you might feel victimized by it. Like, why do these boyfriends keep showing up? That there's this pattern that I'm noticing over years, right? Or whatever. And it's to recognize the pattern and address it. Once you start doing the alchemy more consciously, like either past life regressions or some sort of modality that deals with past life things and clearing things like that, it gets a lot faster and easier, and you actually will start vibrating in things that are in resonance with that solar feminine archetype, because that's the goal. So you will see a shift of things that manifest in your life. But if it looks like, kind of like there's a certain thing you're noticing this bummer pattern about, like you're like, oh man, why does this keep showing up? Go figure out why it keeps showing up. Go find some woo-woo modality that will help you figure out why it's showing up, because it just wants to be reconciled. That's it. And it's showing you how powerful you are, that you keep bringing it into your life.
Exactly. And it's just a reflection of you. And what I find when things like, whether it's in the 8th house or not, but any sort of Leo inversion or distortion or whatever it is, unevolved Leo energy, it's usually some issue between the solar plexus and heart channel, because that's where all that Leo energy resides. Sometimes a little bit with the crown, but it's like, if you're not being your true self, it's hard to love your true self. Like, your heart chakra can't be the open vessel to have unconditional love for the solar plexus until the solar plexus is balanced. So it's like, when your solar plexus is emanating your true light, it unlocks your heart chakra to its fullest potential. And then that can be reflected in a partner.
Yeah, that power center.
Ooh.
Lots of aha moments. Good. Glad we could help with that. Melody, that's awesome to hear.
Thank you for your questions, Melody. We appreciate them.
Yes. And everyone who's asked questions.
Yes, and everybody, thank you.
Yeah, the Leo game, that power game, is such an interesting archetype to work with, because it's really about self-mastery, right?
Owning your own power.
Yeah, whether are you projecting it, like you said, like between the solar plexus and the heart, if you can't stand in that true power yourself, it's not gonna emanate outward in a balanced way either. So it's really important to figure out who that authentic version of you is and stand in that knowingness. And then it just, like, everything just starts dropping in. Boom, everything's in alignment. Boom, boom, boom. There it is.
Yep. And that's like, when you're working on yourself, you want to start with the solar plexus and fix that area so that it can channel upwards to the heart the way it is. But most of the distortions come from when you're a child and you don't receive the unconditional love that you wholly deserved from your parents, that are supposed to be that, vessel of the divine, of giving you that unconditional love. So when your heart as a child, or even an infant, doesn't receive the unconditional love, then the channel goes inverted and it starts going down from the heart into the solar plexus, of saying, you're not getting the love because you're not this way. You have to be this way. And that's how the solar plexus gets distorted.
And that's when it turns into control mechanisms. And that's what we see in power structures in the current state of the collective.
Yes.
Right?
Like, you are only worthy of love if you do this.
Yeah, and I have power over you. I exert my will over you. That's
Exactly.
very, very distorted Leo energy.
Exactly.
And this is all the
like,
roots of
I'm giving.
narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this
As
is
if like you are only you if I give you the validation or the love, or you need something from me because you can't get it in yourself. That's the
Yeah.
power dynamic. That's just so messed up.
Yeah, and when people try and command other people, like when they're in this position of rulership, they're coming from a place of lack, right? They don't feel sovereign unto themselves, so they just barf that all over everybody. Basically, it's like, well, I can't control myself, but I'm going to project that, and I'm just going to control you instead.
I mean, control is a trauma response, and most people don't realize that.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives you a whole nother perspective on the state of the affairs of the world, right? You're like, oh, yeah. So it's an interesting archetype for sure. What else do we want to say? I feel like it's a very creative, once we get beyond the power and control issues, like once you're standing in your power, you're in the creative flow. So, I feel like you were saying in the beginning, George, it's a very masculine archetype, but also inner child, which is very true. When you're standing in your true soul expression, it's like you don't want to control him, but you're just in creative mode. You just want to you play and you create and you bring these ideas down, like you're literally landing these high vibe ideas on the planet to go do things with them. And it gets really
soul
fun.
Family.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's
community.
Sexual. It's wholesome. It's community.
Yeah.
It's life. It's the sun. It's what like feeds the earth and makes everything grow. It's so beautiful. The sun is so beautiful. Yes.
Yeah, it's very like the sun just shines. It doesn't, no bones about it, right? It's just like, I'm just here. I'm just bringing this vital force energy. And that, when you get to that place in life and you've integrated your sun archetype, you're just in the creative zone. So I love that. And then, you just start connecting with the people that are kind of in that same flow. It's inevitable. And the fire just builds, right? Like just stoking the fire, building that solid burning fire. Oh, you said in the beginning, Sashi, like the flame. I was like, oh, the eternal flame. I'm like, that's a great archetype for Leos, the eternal flame.
I like that.
And all those flame activations that we've all talked about. Like I had this violet flame I had this blue flame activate. It's like that's an emanation of this light energy coming in a certain ray frequency, a color frequency that you are embodying. So those like flame activations are real. For anybody who hasn't experienced those, or maybe they experienced them in a way where they didn't really realize what it was, like maybe it was in a dream, but it's as legit in a dream as it is in a meditation. So yes,
definitely.
Yeah.
All right. I think.
What else? Anything else that we want to add? Oh yeah, fixed star stuff. Hello.
Yep.
Well, let's run through the fixed star stuff.
I think we have some fixed star things to say.
I've got my software ready for that today.
Yep, go for it.
Okay, let's go. Okay. So generally the true sky dates for Leo, before sun enters Leo, sun is in the Cancer Leo void, enters that around August 5th and is in that void space for about 4.5 days. The sun enters Leo approximately August 9th with an alignment to fixed star Alturf right here. So that's the first star in constellation Leo that the sun crosses with a perpendicular line coming off the ecliptic. And then sun transits Leo for 36 days approximately. So Leo is one of those signs that is larger than your average tropical zodiac sign. It is one of the longer transits of the sun through a zodiac constellation at 36 days. And then the sun exits Leo on about September 13th. Depends on what year it is. This year it'll be September 13th at Denebola in the tail of Leo, and then cruises through the Leo Virgo void for approximately 3 days. So it's a little tiny void here. It might be more like 2.5 days, but it's close to 3 before it goes into Virgo. So this whole span is Leo. Ignore the sidereal zodiac here in this chart. I can't change that for software reasons. So there are a few interesting fixed stars, like major fixed stars in this area. Alphard in Hydra is probably one of the first majors. Alpha Hydra, which is serpent energy, which is located below Leo, below the ecliptic, or if you're in southern hemisphere, above the ecliptic, I guess. I got to remember how I'm referencing this because there probably are southern hemisphere listeners. Like, okay. Regulus is also one of the other major stars, Alpha Leo. It is a royal star, and it is an axis with Fomalhaut in Pisces Austrinus that is seen through Aquarius constellation alignments. So that is half of the Royal Guardian Cross. So this is the sovereignty portion. This fixed star is really like stand in your true power, stand in your soul alignment, that kind of thing. And then Pisces Austrinus, that Fomalhaut star on the other side, is you already understand the concept of sovereignty. Now it's time to accept your role as this major player on the planet as a guardian. It's like, I accept my job and my responsibilities as an embodied sovereign human walking around with her higher self turned on, right? So that's a major axis. When sun crosses this, there can be some big activations, not only for this star Regulus, but also the opposition at Fomalhaut. So if you have natal planets here, it's kind of a big deal. It means some things. It's the north-south axis on the Royal Guardian Cross. And then the other major star is Alpha Draco, Thuban, right here. And there's some recoding, there's some things that usually come with that placement, or sun crossing that, or a planet crossing that, that requires some attunements. That's not the highest vibe dragon energy. It's a little bit, needs some work, needs some love and attention.
It was an infiltration portal, so it definitely is a place where we have to do some recoding.
Yeah, like false dragon timekeeper type energy. Dragons that come in to manipulate Earth timelines and corrupt things on the planet, corrupt stargates, gain access to them.
Shift sound fields and ley lines, and
they want to gain access to that stuff to manipulate and control it to their own purposes. Again, that's very a Leo lesson, like what not to do, right? Like, no, how about no? So there usually are some interesting attunements and things that will surface for transits here at Thuban.
And then this is also some of the familial karma stuff that Sachi was talking about that you can see come through this position as well.
So look at this is for this year, 2024. Mercury and Sun are almost conjunct at Alphard. It was like the day before they're conjunct, before this alignment with Alphard. That's interesting. So also very close to Regulus, but Mercury's going retrograde at that point. Fascinating. So Regulus alignment August 22nd, Power Day. That's pretty cool. Master builder number. And then Thuban around August 3rd, probably the 29th actually, because it'll cross it before midnight, or make that alignment before midnight. So towards the end of August. So yeah, that's a pretty big swath of sky. Second only to Virgo, I think.
I think Pisces is a little bigger than Leo.
Yeah, you're right. Pisces is a big.
But I think it's number 3, but don't tell Leo that.
No. It's okay, Leo. You're important
just
too.
playing with you, Leo. We're all number 1 in our.
Yeah, so that's
Or we
kind of the
should be.
fixed star things. This is definitely if you're in the northern hemisphere, this is definitely like mid to late summer. If you're in the southern hemisphere, it's the opposite. So yeah, cool stuff. All right.
Yeah.
Do you want me to pull it up on the Sky
Yeah,
app
you
to
can
show
show
her
it.
these
Yeah,
star
get the
lines?
sky up on there. Sure. Get a look at what it looks like in the real sky.
Mhm.
Yeah, that'll show the proximity of
Oh.
Hydra, and you can
Mhm.
scroll up and show them where Draco is in relation, because it's way up off the ecliptic.
So here's our dear Hydra. You'll remember we had that Mercury retrograde in Hydra. Not this most recent one, but the one before that. Or no, Venus retrograde.
I was gonna say it's
Also,
Venus.
also,
Yeah, it's Venus.
Venus retrograded
Mhm.
Hydra.
There will be there will be a Mercury retrograde in this area. I think that's what you're thinking of from doing the calendar.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
remember we were like, oh, there's
Yeah, I need to
sextins and
start thinking
Regulus
of
and
the future.
I
Yeah.
know.
That's right. Okay, yeah.
Get in your timeline.
Woo. I'm trying, man. This 111 portal. Yeesh.
I
Okay.
know.
So here we have Leo. So this is where, and there's Alphard that she was talking about. Here's Royal Star Regulus, and then Draco is here
It's way up there.
with Thuban.
So Thuban's the alpha star. It's the brightest.
Is it this one?
He's upside down. I can't.
I think
That's
it's
Edmund and Ra. Those are the head
yeah,
stars.
the other one.
It's
tail
This one?
somewhere near.
let's look.
Okay, here we go.
Off the top of my head.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there it is.
There we go. Right in the pooper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Sorry,
that makes
Thuban.
sense.
Yeah.
That's where all the shit comes from.
That's funny. So definitely recalibrating some dragon butts. Yeah, it's a powerful time of year through those codes. I'm
Definitely.
having this moment with a dream I had a couple days ago. I'm like, oh, maybe that's what that was about. I thought it was a Uranus joke, but maybe it's a dragon butt joke.
Dragon tails.
So there's not as many, like there are also Ursa Major alignments. You can see what's above Leo there, Leo Minor, Ursa Major. There's a lot of those. So you can get in your sky app. I just picked like the 3 most major that I consider. But there will be lots of other alignments above and below the ecliptic with other fixed stars. Just not all of them has mythology or connotation sort of attached to them the way those 3 do. Those 3 definitely have some. Those are power stars for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and we'll go more into that when we talk about fixed stars. Yeah. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. This is just to wet your whistle. So any other thoughts on
It's
any
pretty
other
cool.
thoughts on Leo?
Yeah, I don't know where that was.
I don't know either.
I was just gonna, oh wow, the sun's red.
Wow.
This is interesting. I was just gonna show like day to day so that people can see.
Yeah. The 36-day path. Yeah. So.
That's so weird that the sun is red. Ooh, weird. Okay, 2024 coming at you live. You saw it here first. Yep, and yeah, so that's when the sun's in Leo.
Nice.
Good times.
All right.
Does anybody have anything else they'd like to share about Leo, or are there any other questions from the live chat? Let's have a look.
I feel like Leo is pretty straightforward, actually. It's a sign that it's not like terribly wrought with recodes. It's pretty straightforward, actually.
I think you're right. It's more about like getting into who you are, like blasting your light out, right?
Yeah.
So if there's any tests with that, it's just going to come as what's stifling your expression, like where do you feel shut down or that kind of thing, and like how can you creatively and playfully bring your voice out. It's sometimes your voice, but sometimes it's just the pure creative force, right? So you feel seen and heard. Yeah. So you feel seen and heard. It's a very charismatic sign. So if you're feeling less than charismatic through sun transits there, it's definitely you're calibrating stuff for sure.
I say that's true.
Let's all go to Dragon Tales. Melody. So funny with the Draco stuff. Yep. Good stuff, guys.
Okay. So
I can't believe how brief this episode was. Comparatively.
I think there's a lot of good info packed.
There's so much. There is absolutely. Yeah, we did. Great job, Leo.
We said what we need to say.
Yeah. Okay, well then, y'all, are we ready to wrap this baby up?
Let's do it.
Okay. Well, we want to thank everyone who joined us tonight live or on the replay. We are the one and only The True Sky Crew. You can find us on YouTube and Instagram at The True Sky Crew. I am Georgia. You can find me at Star Nectar Astrology, and mostly right now my offerings are coming through posts, so come check it out.
Right on. I am Janine. You can find me at Inner Sky Alchemy on Instagram, and my astrology offerings are currently closed because we are still working away on our daily planner. I do foresee the astrology stuff being open back up in February at a limited capacity. We'll see how it goes with the daily planner. But I also still have all my availabilities for dream work and somato emotional healing modalities available through the link in my bio.
Awesome. And I am Sachi the Seer. You can find me on Twitter/X, YouTube, Instagram at Sachi the Seer. And currently my books are closed except for emergency readings. And if you are interested in learning how to read charts yourself, I have Astrology 101 and 201 in my shop. That's at sachitheseer.com, where you can find all of our calendar and planner stuff. And then also a tarot course if you are interested in learning how to do tarot.
Yeah, and check out Sashi's shop for our planner and calendar for 2024.
Yes, and enjoy those pieces of art and science.
All right, so our next episode is January 25th. We will be discussing February transits. So we are looking forward to seeing you there. And until the next episode, keep your feet on the ground and your eyes on the sky, because the true sky don't lie. See you next time. Bye.
Thanks.